Join in with planetary healing light work that will help us manifest World Enlightenment 2016. So let's get high and fly into new possibilities. So join Kathy every Friday night on UPRN, the Quantum Leap Let Light Unite show. A very powerful happening.
You are listening to United Public Radio Network, UPRNTalkRadio.com, 107.5 New Orleans.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Hi, come check out Christina George's new show, Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond, Thursday night, 8 p.m. See you Thursday, Jeff.
You're listening to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Joe Montaldo, and you're listening to United Public Radio.
This is Michael Angley of Michael Angley Live, Discovery Paranormal, and the Daily Update with Michael Angley. For the best news and commentary, tune in to Michael Angley Live every Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. For the best paranormal talk in town, tune in to Discovery Paranormal every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. And check out UPRN, United Public Radio Network, every day for the Daily Update with Michael Angley. All on United Public Radio Network, UPRNTalkRadio.com, 107.7 New Orleans.
Come check out Christina George's new show, Paranormal Connections, only on United Public Radio, Monday, 8 to 10 p.m. See you Monday. Hello, you're listening to United Public Radio. I'm Joe Montaldo, host of News on the Flip Side. Check us out every Saturday night, 6 to 9 p.m. Central Time.
The UPRN family of shows would like to take a moment to thank our loyal listeners for tuning in to UPRNTalkRadio.com along with 107.7 FM New Orleans. Broadcasting on multiple platforms like Live 365, Ustream, and Shoutcast has made the UPRN the longest-running, highly rated, and best source of quality, unique programming that is not afraid of the status quo in alternative media. This station has a solid course of shows and hosts that refuse to get stuck in a rut or be overrun by a groupthink mentality, because station owner, host, and iCar founder Joe Montaldo knows the value of letting his talented stable of hosts grow uninhibited. In this genre, that's an accomplishment which many in alternative radio are striving for.
You are listening to United Public Radio Network, UPRNTalkRadio.com, 107.5 New Orleans.
I had had enough.
Well, you drove out there into the middle of nowhere and had some sort of loud verbal display challenging ET in general out in the middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Works with iCar, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. for a drive with a gal one night. They stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die?" Yo, reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
Welcome to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo.
Like Natasha says, I am your host, Joe Montaldo. I'm coming for all of you. Welcome, everyone, to UFO Undercover. Halloween is close and coming quickly, isn't it? For all the little kitties out there, yes. Hope everyone has great Halloween plans. It is Monday, so I hope you all get out and enjoy it. And remember, after Halloween, just 7 days to the other nightmare we call an election. So be sure to have fun and enjoy. It might be your last Halloween. Tonight's show is actually going to be about alien abduction. This is something I haven't done in a long time, and I'm going to put a few of these together. This is more for our abductees and contactees that listen to this show than the general listener audience. You'll enjoy it, but it really is more for their benefit. It's like a decade in the life of a contactee, or just daily days in the life of a contactee. It's very strange because when you really look at all of this stuff, it's strange the way it plays out, how is involved, who is involved, the things that happen to different contactees, and so on and so forth. But before we do that, a couple of plugs. Just set a date for Jim Allen yesterday with his media director, and he will be appearing on Wednesday, November 16th. He'll be coming on. We'll be talking about his new book. It should be an interesting conversation. But for my political friends and my conspiracy friends, we're doing a special on November 26th on News and the Flip Side. Jim's going to come join Jim Allen and I. We're going to do the first hour is going to be about 9/11 conspiracy, since both these men are very well written in this. And the second hour is going to be about, of course, by then we'll know who the new president's going to be. And it will be about what do we think about the new president and the direction they may be heading in. Of course, that'll be almost a full month after the election. So just to let y'all know what's going on. So on the 26th, which is a Wednesday, on the 16th, which is a Wednesday, he will be joining me right here on UFO Undercover, and we'll be discussing his new book and then a few other topics. If I know Jim and I, we rarely can stay to one topic. And then on November 26th, he will be joining me on News and the Flip Side to discuss 9/11 and the the new president to be at that time. So if anybody starts writing to me, no, we're not going to talk about politics tonight. This is UFO Undercover, but we carried one of Trump's live just a few minutes ago. It'll be archived later on if anybody wants to catch it tomorrow. We're going to be carrying a Hillary Clinton one. Look, guys, the station has a wide range of hosts. We have independents, we have middleists, we have Republicans, we have Democrats, we have libertarians. So we have to be fair and present everybody's sides. We've had some of Gary Johnson stuff on. Jill Stein, I just can't. She's so far down in the polls, it's hard to really play anything. Besides, every time I listen to her, she's crazy. So you probably won't hear her stuff. But the other three you will hear. I do believe in giving the independent libertarian a shot. But anyway, enough about all of that. So y'all know what's upcoming. We've got a few more shows and abduction stuff, and then we'll start probably doing a few abductee shows in December. But anyway, tonight is really more about some of the stuff we hear when we hear about abductees and contactees. So we're going to use Jane Smith, Jane Doe. Jane finds out she's pregnant. Okay, now Jane is an abductee / contactee, however you want to view this. She's in her mid-30s, maybe early 40s, probably late 30s, more like it. Now, she's been dealing with this abduction and contact stuff all her life, so she's worried because now she's going to have a child, and as a child, we're going to go through this. Well, we're not going to discuss the mother tonight. We're going to discuss the child. So, around 5 or 6 months pregnant, she's abducted. Just standard abduction procedure. They bring her on board the ship. They do the usual stuff. But of course, she's pregnant. So they decide at that time, technically that is that baby or that contactee's first abduction is inside the mother's womb. They examine it. They can, I don't know how they do it, and we've seen images of these and we've seen drawings of these. They can actually physically, in a field, remove the baby from the womb and examine it outside the womb. Very, very advanced, very interesting, very freaky stuff for a mother, I would imagine. It's interesting because so many moms have described this, I should say so many contactee abductee moms has actually described this, so I find it to be a bit chilling, a bit freaky, but they describe seeing it like this. Now, this will happen again 2 or 3 more times before the baby is born. So this baby is basically born an abductee. So now the baby's born. The mother's nursing the baby, or they're bottle feeding, whatever it may be. So probably at 3 or 4 months, they come take mom and baby. And then again, probably about 10 or 12 months. And then again, around 2 years old. And then it changes a little bit. Then they don't always take the mother. Sometimes they will just take the child, and they will bring the child and allow the child to interact with other contactee / abductee children. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we hear about this commonly, where these children are brought on board the ships and allowed to interact with other children, basically making friends and understanding stuff. And at this point, for the most part, these children really don't have a fear of the aliens. Most of them will say stuff like, "Oh, it's my bug-eyed friend or my lizard friend." I can't tell you, but children have said, "Oh yeah, I was petting my lizard. He feels like soft, like I guess the closest thing to it would be like a soft suede." It is eerie to hear a child talk about this and then given out just excellent view, an excellent description of a reptilian or a gray or a human. And it's interesting to listen to them talk about this. It's funny too, when people touch the reptilian, they don't describe it as being cold to the touch. It feels just like, a lot of times they said really when they grab them, it doesn't feel all that much different than if they're grabbing a human, which suggests they're warm-blooded, but that's for a whole other show. And then that, of course, doesn't make them real reptilians. But anyway, we don't want to segue. We don't want to get sidetracked to tonight's show. So here's this baby, or this young child. It's being brought on board this ship. It's being allowed to act with other children, to get together with them, to make friends, to build bonds, and so on and so forth. Sometimes the mothers are allowed to be there. Sometimes the father's allowed to be there. Sometimes there's other type of interactions going on where the parents or the mother or father, if both parents are abductees and it's a mother or father, then you'll see mother or father. But if both of them, a lot of times you'll see both parents. But regardless, the child will be there making friends and being imparted knowledge and being given things and understandings far beyond their little 6, 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-old mind. Now, this goes on all the time. They bring them on and they allow them to interact with other people on board the ships. They allow them to even interact with other alien children on board the ship. So there doesn't seem to be any fear or any malice or anything else at this point. Now, I'm not saying that all children who have this event aren't scared, because some of them are, and some of them do have fear. But for the most part, 85-90% seem to not exhibit any fear whatsoever. They seem to embrace these contacts, which still freaks me out a little bit. You're basically embracing an alien abduction, an alien contact. You're like, really now? Okay, this is just a tad bit freaky. But the kids do it. And it's so weird as an investigator when you're talking to the parents and the children come in, or they've recorded. A lot of times I ask them to let the children talk without, talk about an experience without them interjecting it on a tape, and so we can hear it that way. Because I always feel weird interviewing children. It's really, if you're not 18 or older, and I know, teenagers and young adults are still having these experiences, we're actually not set up for that. That's the parent's job, or the parent to get a counselor's job. It's not members of ICAR or the adults. And matter of fact, there's only two people in the organization that ever really did it, and that was November Hands and another friend of mine, and they're both school teachers. So that it's something that it's easier for them to deal with. We really, we take recordings and reports from parents about their children, and sometimes we'll even send a list of questions back, and then they'll send it back. But that's the way we do it, because it's just better for everybody involved. That way there's no funny business going on, no weirdness is going on, no one accusing anyone planning memories or anything along those lines, because there's no contact involved at that point. So anyway, these children are interacting, they're going back and forth the ship. Like I said, a few are more scared, but for the most part they're not. They're allowed to use the keepers, the technologies, the different technologies on the ship, to interact with certain forms of technologies on the ship. For a kid, this sounds fabulous. Now, so meanwhile, these 10 years goes by, this child's being abducted, he's being taken with his parents. Sometimes it's even around when something goes down with the parents, which may scare the child. But for the most part, the young children are usually separated from anything that we would consider to be not pleasant. So it tells you something about the aliens. Even though they're taking your child without your permission and without the child's permission, they are still trying to isolate the child from too much damage, which does show that they do at least have some concern for us, or at least for our children. I don't want to say for us so much, but maybe for our children, because that changes as time goes on. When this child starts to go through puberty, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, wherever it starts, contact changes at that point. Usually within a year of puberty, the type of abductions change greatly. They bring them on board, and they start testing psychological abilities, physical abilities, mental capabilities, but not to the extent they do this is a progression from, say, 12 to, say, 15, 16, 17, maybe even 18. They're not what I would call as hardcore as they are when you get into your 20s. Somewhere between 18 and, say, 22, they really starts the really bad stuff. I mean, the really, really, really bad stuff. But so this is a typical day in a contactee's life. They're doing their thing every day. The kids are going to school, playing, making their grades, doing their chores. And along comes ET, and ET introduces other children, other aliens, and they seem, at least the children seem to have an easier time incorporating this. And then, of course, they hit puberty. And as they're going through puberty, the amount of abductions increase, the amount of experiments increase to such a point that by the time they're in their 20s, that they're being taken sometimes weekly, almost always monthly, but a lot of times weekly they're being taken. There are a whole wide range of breeding experiments they do, a whole wide range of psychological experiments they do. Basically, from about 18 to about 28, I don't want to say it's a living hell, because it's not completely always bad. But there are other parts in there that may be enlightening or things along those lines. But for the most part, this is when you hear talking about things like the milking machine and the orifice device. We like to call it the orifice device because this device comes out of the wall, and anywhere there's a hole, it fills it. Anywhere. Nostrils, eyeballs, ears, Other places we're not going to talk about on the air. Every place. It's very, very intrusive. And for someone, and plus, when the thing comes over you to hold you down on what we would call a table, you're basically immobilized. And then here comes this thing that just basically fills every hole in your body, and it does it in a very intrusive manner. Now, is there pain? For some reason, they must be the utensils, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, must have a numbing agent because you don't hear a lot of screaming, even though you think you would, or a lot of jerking around, or maybe there's some kind of anesthetic involved. But you are awake and you are conscious. You're not asleep. So you physically can see a lot of what goes on until the point where it covers your eyes. But this is psychologically hard on a person. I think that's one of the reasons they don't necessarily always let you remember things like that. The milking machines are the stirrup booths. There's a couple of rooms we've seen over the years where they have these circular table things where there are basically, there's like, it's either 8 or 12 chairs, and each chair has a set of stirrups on it. If you don't know what that is, ladies and gentlemen, you're too young to be listening to this show. Any female that's had a gynecological exam knows what I'm talking about. Any male that is probably over the age of 16 should know what I'm talking about. But they have these where they have the examinations where we hear people talk about the redheaded doctor. Sometimes there's hybrid stuff going on there. Sometimes there's other things like that. But for the most part, I don't think the aliens are breeding our children as hybrids. I think for the most part, when they take a contactee or they take the child and then they do what they do, I think it's more for the betterment of the individual down the line, and not necessarily to benefit them now. And what I mean by that, some of these may be taken later on for host bodies, but some of them also may be being adjusted for the next couple of generations of children coming out, so that those children can be adjusted more, and so on and so on and so forth. You can call it a grand experience, you can call it whatever you want, but there seems to be a lot of this going on. There are a lot of psychological experiments that goes on in these age ranges. Up until about 28, I mean, there are some horrific ones. They'll make you think your spouse died. They'll dissect your puppy when of course, it's not actually there, but you don't know that. They do a lot of things that we would consider cruel, but they want to see how emotions react. They stimulate your pleasure centers. They stimulate your all kind of centers, actually. And they run experiments on all of these. So it's like every emotion that you have, eventually they're going to run some type of experiment on. For a human, that's not an easy thing. Whether it's good or bad, it's just not an easy thing, especially when you know there's another being watching or observing. You know, people laugh harder a lot of times when they're just sitting watching TV with nobody around. As far as sex and things like that goes, unless you're a bit ambitious, you know, most people don't want that stuff made public. So but anyway, they try a wide range of things. And when I say they stimulate pleasure centers, it's not just sexual pleasure centers. It's all pleasure centers, from taste to smell to anything that gives you a euphoric feeling. And they do this because they want to see how you act, but they also do the opposite and on the bad side. So they're basically testing your individual. Because I asked one time to a bunch of contactees, why do they keep doing this? They've been doing this 10, 20, 30, 100, 400, 500,000 years. By now they should know. But that's not actually the truth, because they're just testing the individual, not the species, mind you, but the individual, to see if they're ready for the next phase or the next step. Can they be useful to what the alien agendas may be or not? Should their contact with them be terminated until such a time that they have children or something worse? So, you know, all of this is going on, and this is daily a lot of times. You're dealing with flashbacks of memory. You're at work doing your job. You're 26 years old. You're having memories of being strapped down to a machine and stripped naked and milking machine strapped to you, where it seems to stay for hours. And while that's going on, a lot of times they're stimulating other centers in the brain for whatever reasons that they're doing it. I mean, this is just hard for a human to deal with, and still have to do their job, raise their family, cook their dinner, drive to home, go to college, whatever it may be that they're doing. These are things that are still going on. The physical act of being taken is enough to shake most people. And once you know you've been taking your own board of craft, regardless of what they're doing in your craft, you're already off balance from just being taken. And a lot of times, if you're being taken where you're being pulled through walls or zipped up through craft, it's for some people might call it exhilarating. For most people, it says it scares the bejesus out of them. There's nothing like passing through a solid wall, right? And it's weird how people describe this, by the way, but that's also for another show. So all this is going on, and it's a turmoil in your body, your mind, your soul, and of course, going through puberty and into your mid-20s, your levels of everything are through the roof. I mean, really, your hormones are all over the place. You've got all kind of other stuff going on. And for women and for men, if the woman's pregnant when she's being taken, that adds a whole nother level of this. Even for men, knowing that their children are being taken is a whole nother level to this. So this is just daily stuff that the average abductee or contactee goes through. We ain't even got to any good stuff yet. We're just talking about from birth to 28. There are some good stuff in here, like I said, in the early years. There's a lot of good stuff, a lot of good interaction, a lot of learning, a lot of programming, a lot of downloads, a lot of being able to use the computer systems on board the ships, which are just interfaces basically through your mind. And for some reason, they say children have an easier time of doing it. And of course, the children who have done it, when they become adults and are allowed to do it again in their 30s, it's also easier for them because they've already done it. It's not all contactees get that advantage, but most do. It's not like an uncommon thing. It's mostly a common thing. It's just occasionally it doesn't work out that way. So, here you are, you're 27 years old, you've got a career, you've got a spouse, you may have a child, your spouse is not a contactee, okay? And you're just like, who can you tell? Oh, honey, last night some little gray guys came in and took me and little Peter and beamed us up to their flying saucer and performed all kind of wicked experiments on us and even sexual experiments. And what do you think they're going to say? They're going to look at you like, really, honey? Have you lost your mind? Do I need to divorce you and take the child and go far, 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 far away from you? Like in the cartoon, in Shrek, far, far, far away land. But anyway. You just gotta kind of wonder how these people feel, and they really don't have anybody they can tell. Now, fortunately for a lot of people, they do find ICAR or they find me or one of the members, and they can talk to them. We're not as easy to get hold to as we used to be, and it's not that we don't want to be. We have good directors. We have our good directors, but we're really busy. We have a lot of people contacting us for a lot of. Matter of fact, I apologize every show to the people from Ancient Aliens. I still have over 2,100 pieces of email. Applications, reports, and new contactees to go through, not including whatever's on my abduction email at AT&T. I haven't even had a chance to go through that. It's just, there's a lot of material. So, now we're going to go backwards a little bit back to the children for a little bit, the 6, 7, 8, 10, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. When these children are on board ships, they do give them full access to the different computers. They're allowed to upload it because they can actually physically upload themselves. It would be like being able to upload yourself into your Sony or your Xbox. It's a very interesting thing, and children really love it. They're allowed to use the full range of the arboretums and everything else on board the craft. They're allowed to use this. They're encouraged to. They're encouraged to interact with other alien species along our lines, like the black-eyed children. Yeah, our children aren't scared of the black-eyed children. The black-eyed children aren't scared of us because on board the ship, they're allowed to interact. Something that no other researchers even talk about, or most of them don't even know because they simply haven't done enough research to know where the black-eyed people actually came from and who they're actually involved with. They're not demons. They're not demonic. They're not from the other side, and they're not dark, and they're not men in black. They're basically a race like us, a little different eye set, a little different hairstyle, a little even different forehead set, but basically us. Even along the same technological level, they are abductees and contactees from another world. That's what they are. And they're allowed to interact with us as keepers, just like human keepers are allowed to interact with them. Yeah, but nobody wants to talk about that kind of stuff because it's scary. But it is Halloween, too. But anyway, these children are all, and it's not just that. They're allowed to interact with human children, reptilian children, other children from other races. Anybody who's aboard those big ships, they're allowed to interact with. And they're allowed to use technology. It's almost like they're trying to make these children, to put this in perspective, it's like the millennials with computers and gaming. To them, it's second nature. It's part of who. Come on, my son at age 1 used to sit there and play Sega Genesis with me. He had his own little controller. Of course, he didn't know what the hell he was doing because he was 1. But he grew up with computers and games completely. It's what he grew up with. And that's most of the millennials today. That's what they grew up with. So for them, it's pretty much the same set. It's pretty much the same mindset, the same energy set. It's just they want these children. It's almost like they're preparing these children for something later in life on a more higher technological level, or maybe when they know the time comes to take them or upload their consciousnesses or whatever, they may want them to already have this certain amount of information stored in their memories. I mean, we could sit here all night and come up with lots of reasons why they do it, but they haven't really told us yet, so we're just basically speculating at this point. So here you have all these children allowed to interact, to be, and it's like I said earlier in the show, when I hear a child say, my gray friend or my bug-eyed friend or my lizard friend, the word friend is there. There's no fear. There's no running and hiding from it. It's simple curiosity, or because these aliens have been kind to them, or maybe because these children have been seeing these aliens since birth, that there is no, it's just like seeing their parents. There is no fear of them then. The aliens haven't given them any reason to fear them, and since it's a familiar face that they see on a regular basis, again, there's no reason to be fear. And the fear really doesn't start till after puberty. For the most part, around 14, 15, 16 is when you really start hearing about fear. By about 25, 26, you're hearing a lot about fear. There's a lot of just bad programs that go on. You hear about spinal cords being removed and put back, limbs being severed and put back, eyeballs being taken. Perfect experience. 28-year-old woman said something. I forgot. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but it was something along the lines. I think she was praying to Jesus to save her, and the Greys took her eyes out and faced them back towards her and said, "Here, see if he can save you now." Obviously, they don't believe in the same God we do, and that's a traumatic experience. Having your eyes removed and then seeing yourself through your own eyes while they're outside your body. I don't know, guys. That's pretty harsh. And it's funny because a lot of times we'll hear about people with these limbs and spines and legs and all kinds of stuff being removed. And when they go to the hospital to check it out, they really don't find these scars or any marks, but they usually do find heightened levels of serotonin, heightened levels of different hormones and a few other things, suggesting that there was something that stressed the body, but there's no physical, as far as they can tell, there's no physical cause for the stress. These cases are always interesting. And every now and again, you get lucky and there's some kind of mark left behind. Like in one lady's case, when they reset the bone, this is a strange case, but the lady had broke her bone in a car accident. And when she had this happen, she went back to see the doctor, and the doctor said, "No, your leg's fine." And he noticed that, where the break was, the jagged, the way the bone healed was no longer there. It was smooth, like it had been remelded together. There was no break, no mark of a break, no seam of a break. And he had x-rays on this. So even he was astonished that, like you say, well, I can't see how the body completely healed itself like this, but it did. There was no bone spurs or anything along those lines. So even then, even when the aliens are torturing you, sometimes they fix stuff, but for the most part, they don't interject in our health in this. And you got to remember, a lot of people in their 20s that are having immune problems, psychological problems. There's so much here to deal with. I guarantee you, half of the abductees, if they would go in, could probably get be like shell shock or ADD or ADDT, something along those lines, because this is very stressful, especially for people under the age of 34, 35. It's extremely stressful. So, you could find yourself easily on a disabled list somewhere simply for the fact of what you're going through. And if you don't have anybody to talk to, you don't have anybody to deal with it, it's just going to get worse. You've got to find, and I tell people this all the time, you don't have to come to ICAR. We want you to, and we want to talk to you. But, if you can't get us for some reason, there are other organizations out there. Just don't always believe what they're telling you. Go to them to talk. It's kind of like therapy for contactees. Or write to us, or if you can get hold of us, call us on one of the lines. I tell people all the time, you can call in to this show pretty much anytime I'm doing these type of shows. If you just want to talk, you can always call into these type of shows, 504-273-7379. I do allow for that. Usually when we're doing guests, not as much as I used to. But on these kind of shows, I don't mind as much if you're going to be talking about the same topic, or if you're going to share, or if you want to know about, how this can help you. Now, one of the things we tell these people when they're going through all of this is, first off, remember it is going to change. The contact does change in your 30s to a different style of contact once ET knows what your thresholds are. It does change. And we'll get into that on next week's show. But before all of that, they're still doing all these experiments. But remember, we consider it to be cruel. But for the most part, they don't let you remember. And what they do, so you're going through puberty, they start doing these experiments to you. You're in your 20s, they're doing more of these experiments to you. Okay? Then, as these experiments are going on, it starts to change a little bit. Sometimes they get more aggressive, more forceful. And, of course, your mind is just wallowing through this, trying to figure it out. But while they're doing that, they're doing regular uploads, regular downloads, helping to increase your knowledge across the board, not just about what they're doing, but in general, which should help you in life. One of the things we try to help contactees with is come to certain terms with this, because they are all telepathic. Oh, I shouldn't say telepathic, empathic. So, you need to know what that is and know how to control that so it doesn't affect your life, and it can be used as a tool. So, it's one of the things we talk about on a regular basis is understanding your empathic abilities, whether you're transmitting or receiving, why your moods may change for no reason. People tell me, I'm going crazy. I need to see a shrink. I said, why? Because your moods are changing back and forth. I said, when you walk into a room and you're mad, everybody in the room gets mad, or when you're happy, everybody in the room gets happy. Or when you walk into a room, somebody's sad and you get sad. I said, that's being an empath. I said, you need to distinguish what's your emotion and what's theirs, or it will drive you batshit crazy, for lack of a better way of saying it. And these are all things that contactees, abductees have to come to terms with. And this is all before the age of 30. So first you're getting flashbacks of these aliens from your childhood that were nice and kind and helped to enlighten you and move you on and help you to understand. And then now you're having flashbacks of these sadistic bastards who are removing body parts and stressing, seeing what stress levels your mind can take, seeing what they can stimulate on different pleasure levels or different fear levels or different pain levels. So you're thinking, oh my God, they're sadistic and evil. And then you hit 30, 32, and all of that changes again, unless you flunk out. And if you flunk out, for lack of a better way, then they pretty much stop abducting you. Now, when you have children, they're going to come take your children. They're going to probably come take you when you're pregnant, because they want to see if these children can be used as well. So just because it stops for you doesn't mean it's going to stop for your children. And the rarity of abduction stopping is a little, they do stop. I mean, unless you're a useful individual to them after the age of 40, the abductions probably will stop. If you're not going to be working with them or helping, like being keepers or help on board with the children or the other type of aliens and helping to assimilate people, then they're not interested in you. They want you to be part of their agenda. It's just they want to make sure, for whatever reason, and I don't know what their reasons are, that you can handle certain psychological. I guess from their point of view, we're a very limited species. And if we're going to be an off-world species, then we have to think differently. You can't think like a human and think about living in other worlds or visiting other aliens. You can't take those preconceptions with you, those racist conceptions with you, those bigotry conceptions. You have to be more open-minded to that. And not just that, you have to be open-minded to things that you just wouldn't understand or couldn't even conceive right now. Things that even with your wildest imagination, you wouldn't even believe existed. So they need to make sure your mind is open enough to do that. They also need to know that your mind under stress can handle a lot of what's going to be thrown at you for whatever it may be. No one ever said, being abducted by aliens is all roses and candy. There's a lot of bad stuff in there. I'm not saying that all contact is bad, because it's not. But I'm not saying all contact is good, because it's not. There's a big mix in it. I always love people when they come to me and they tell me, the aliens are peace, love, and light, and they're here to enlighten us and save us. First thing out of my mouth is, have you looked around at the planet lately? The planet's a shithole. Whoa, somebody needs to teach him what saving actually means. So for me, it's different. I don't believe ET is here to enlighten our species, is the way people will say it does, or to destroy our species, because they could have done either one a long time ago. Let's be honest. 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, they could have easily came in and took the planet over, formed one group, one government, and started to educate those people forward. By now, we would be 10,000 years more advanced than we are today, and we would understand it fully, and we would be a 100% integrated society. But they didn't choose to do that, did they? They could have done it 5,000 years ago. They just didn't. They don't go around enlightening our world leaders. They don't go around enlightening our species. But at the same stroke, 10,000 years ago, they could have wiped out everybody on the planet, because there wasn't that many on the start of. 100,000 years ago, there was hardly anybody here compared to today. Just turn on your sensors, find all the humans, and zap their asses, and the planet's yours. And they could start wars and stuff like that today. That's not what they're here for. They're not here to destroy us, and they're not here to enlighten us. They have their own agendas, and humans are part of the agenda. Stop thinking, humans, that you are the agenda. You're not. You are part of a much bigger agenda that involves way more races than you realize and way more things than you realize. Humans is a part of it. It's not about us. It's about the aliens. I know you want to make it about us because you're the one being taken and abducted, but it's not. And anytime a researcher tells you that, they are lying to you. You don't have to believe me. You just simply judge the aliens by their own actions. 1, they take your children without asking. 2, they perform a range of experiments on you without asking. Whether you're having a good experience or not, they're taking you without asking. They're coming into your home and physically removing you and taking you away. That speaks volumes about them right there. Whether they have concern for us or not, they do not consider us to be their equals. They do not consider us to be much more than the average polar bear that we would go tag in Alaska, because that's basically what they're doing. So you have to keep this in perspective and understand that they do acknowledge us, and they do think we're part of their agenda, but we're not all of it, and we're not even all the most integral pieces in it. We're just a piece in it. I know it's hard for humans to absorb that, because we always need to be the center of the universe, but we're not. And remember, we learned a long time ago that we're not the center of the universe. We're one planet amongst billions, probably trillions. And we need to start learning how to live with ourselves so we can learn how to live with our neighbors. Maybe that's one of their goals, to try to help to enlighten our species along those lines. But you don't even see that. I mean, look at what's going on our planet right now between Russia, the United States, China, Iran, Iraq, North Korea. It's a disaster waiting to happen. If ET was here to enlighten us, none of that shit would be going on. So, I mean, you can kind of rule those out. As far as a breeding program goes, they're here because they're DNA. All right. First time I heard that, I said, well, maybe that's true. And then I realized there was more than one species visiting the planet. I find it highly unlikely that all the species visiting here are here to save our DNA, to save their DNA. No, I'm just not buying that. Frankly, from what you understand about the humans, the greys, and reptilian, they're very arrogant species. They don't think they need anybody for any type of breeding. The reptilians and humans seem to still breed the old-fashioned way. The Greys seem to do it a little differently. But they all seem to be very intelligent, very powerful, and very healthy. None of these species look like they're in any jeopardy whatsoever. And on top of that, the Greys are by far the more advanced of the two species and the most powerful of the two, both mentally, physically, and technologically. And the way you know that is anytime they're around, when a reptilian or a human's around, they give way to the Grey because they're a very powerful race. A lot of people seem to think they serve the light beings directly, so that would make them a little bit more powerful than the rest of the races out there. But when you get to this, these three races have entered their DNA into us and are going to evolve this species. And one day, a billion years from now, 500 million years from now, 100 million years from now, the whatever our original DNA base is, plus these three races, will all merge into create a great species. And one day we may actually surpass our creators, but not now. Now we're just lonely little shitheads that have no idea what's going on. And if we wipe ourselves out, I don't think they're going to intervene. I think they've got enough of us already that they don't have to intervene. I think they'd like to take another billion, $1.5 billion through whatever program they're running here on when people die, but they don't have to. They've got enough. They just might have to increase breeding amongst humans. And Jeffrey, they're not being eaten like cattle. I've seen that comment. So anyway, all of this is stuff, everyone under the age of 30, information they get in their head, things that they don't understand, stuff that fragments out. You know, here you are. You're 26 years old, 25 years old. You're in college. You're sitting in your class. And all of a sudden you're flipping through and you see something either on a computer screen or a book that triggers a memory of your abduction. Now you're in class and you're experiencing this full emotion, full color, full everything. What do? Do you get up and walk out? Do you hold it as tight as you can? Do you tell your friend sitting next to you? Do you tell a teacher, hey, I'm freaking out because I'm seeing a reptilian probing me? So you have to hold yourself tight. You still have to acknowledge what your teacher's telling you, try to accumulate and assimilate the data that you're being taught, and still not lose your mind because of what actually is going on in your head from this type of abduction. Like I said, you know, from 12 to 28, these are harsh abductions. There's a lot that goes on here. Really, like I said, 16 to 28, but these are really harsh stuff that goes on here. Most of it you will never remember. That's why when people ask me, will you regress me? I'm like, do you really want to know? Because you never know if all this stuff from your 20s, and some people, believe it or not, will call me because they want to be regressed for that particular time. They really want to be regressed for that particular time. They want to know what happened to them in their early puberty and in their 20s. And when it all starts coming out, it really freaks out a lot of people. I mean, there's one experiment they perform. Okay, they bring you in there. They put you hovering. They put you hovering over this thing, and it's like the Orbis thing, because the thing comes out the wall and it plugs into your body. Now, this isn't the one that fills all the orifices. This one connects to the electrical impulses of your body, to the nervous system, and simply by a thought from the Greys, they can activate any nerve in your body. They can make things move. They can make pain. They can make pleasure. They can make you flip over. They can make your face smile even when you're not smiling. They can make you shake your head. You can shake your hands. They basically take over complete control of your body. For someone in their 20s, this has got to be a horrific experience. For anybody, I don't think it matter what age group it is. You're now being confined in a field above a floor with nothing underneath you, while some little 4-foot Grey stands next to you and thinks. And the shitty part is, or the good part, depending on how you look on it, you can hear the Grey's thoughts, or you can hear the command that's going to make you do something before it happens. It actually processes through your head. So the Grey puts the thought in, the body twitches. The Grey puts the thought in, the heart races. The Grey puts the thought in, the headache starts. The Grey puts the thought in, and you start feeling just nothing but pain from your fingertips as it works through your whole entire body till it feels like every nerve in your body's on fire. I've heard about these experiments on several occasions. none of them sound very pleasurable. None of them sound like anything any normal person would want to be associated to. But at the same time, I've had them tell you things like that they've opened doorways so that they could see other worlds and see other places, see other beings participating in these experiments. So even when they're doing this, these people in their 20s, they're still trying to educate them that this isn't about destroying humanity. This is about showing the other worlds, and whatever they're uniting together, this is part of it. And I think it's a long-term process, because I think that, they take X amount of humans when they die and they load them in the host bodies. These are people probably more along in keeper lines, or maybe even higher up in the ranks than that. And yes, there is higher than the keepers, but maybe it's those people that are taking, people that showed that they can live off world, that they can be involved, that they can help with the abduction scenario, they can help with other races. They do whatever it is that the aliens are pushing them to do, whatever the agenda is that they're pushing them to do. So this is a tough thing to absorb, because first off, they're torturing you, but then at the same time they're enlightening you. How do you take that? And for a lot of people, this is harsh. And for young men and young women, some of the way they stimulate the body is harsh. Some of it is unbelievably pleasurable, to the extent that it's almost an ecstasy-like thing. So these are things that they do, and it's very confusing for the average person. It's also very confusing because, like I said at the beginning of the show, they're allowing these children to interact on a galactic scale, I guess, for a lack of a better way to see it. But of course, when these children mature, they start doing pretty nasty stuff. And then, of course, when they mature to the next level, that all changes and allows for that. And that is, we're going to get more into this. We're already out of time, and I still had quite a bit I wanted to go over on some of the other type of experiments that get done. There's one that's very, very interesting. It's like Pictionary. They put pictures through your head, and they do it at a fairly fast rate. But for some reason, your mind picks out certain pictures, and when it does, they assemble those pictures and like a video in front of you, and you'd be amazed at some of what this is. Some people think this might be some type of clairvoyance they're testing. Some people think that it's pieces and bits of stuff in their life that they forgot. Some people think that it's from another life or from another reality, or maybe even from a higher level of consciousness, that they're divining these different things. Regardless, sometimes it's quite fear. Sometimes it's quite scary what they divine. Sometimes it's very enlightening, for a lack of a better word. So, but I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea, because there's a lot of what I would consider to be very harmful, both physical and mental stuff done to contactees in their 20s. And then again, like I said, it changes. And if we have time in the next show, we might add on a couple of more of these, but I really want to talk about the 30s and 40s and then the 50s and 60s, because contact changes and it evolves into different levels and to different understandings. And there are a couple of things that I'd like to talk about at 20. Dean, the milking machine. You don't know what a milking machine is? If you've ever seen cows getting milked, if you have, when they put these little fingers on the udder and it's hooked up and it sucks the milk out of they do that to males. And actually, there's a part they do on females sometimes too, but in this, what we're talking about right now is what they actually do to males to, of course, gather what? Yes. Anyway, we're going to get out of here now. We'll end it on that note. Sorry about that. Just dropped the keyboard, but we'll end it on that note right there, guys and girls. Remember, you are listening to UFO Undercover. I'm your host, Joe Montaldo. I hope everyone's having a great evening. Enjoy yourself. Have some fun. It is Halloween. And get out there and have some fun. I think Saturday we might just do ghostly stories of the evil Hillary and Trumpy. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I hope everybody has a great night. Thanks again for tuning in to UFO Undercover, and enjoy, people. Good night, everybody.
You are listening to United Public Radio Network, UPRNTalkRadio.com, 107.5 New Orleans.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Hey everybody, we're the Foo Fighters. Check out our new movie, Studio 666. Oh my God!
Dude has got one flew over the cuckoo's nest crazy.
Yes, I did. Get ready to laugh, scream, and headbang in your popcorn. It's this place, man.
What do?
We go save his life.
Studio 666.
Is the album almost done?
Yeah, it's killer.
Only in theaters. Now playing. Rated R.
And who else do we have here? We got $5,900. We got Noble Patrick, Simon Condon, the gorgeous Pam McSee, Bob Perkins. How are you, buddy? Go 66. Boo. Jenny, how are you, gorgeous? Mr. Lurks a lot. Thanks for coming on in. The gorgeous and talented Kira. Enzo, what's happening? M. Coons, it's been a while. How you doing? Jesse Peak, good to see you, buddy. As we continue on with roll call, the gorgeous Aunt Edna. Stephen Edmond, good to see you. Drew Boris, thanks for coming on in. And will we have enough time? Ed Clater's here. The Ed Clater. Hi, George Almaraz. How are you, man? Media Fox, good to see you. Steve Wolf, always a pleasure. As we continue on with roll call, we're going to have enough time. I think we are. All right. Let's see. Terry Brown, nice to have you here. Reptilian, what's happening? What's going on? Jazzy Small, welcome to SOR Chat. And who else do we have here? I don't know. Maybe we won't make it. It was that birthday song. That's what killed it. The birthday song, but it was so worth it. All right. 15 seconds. Can we do it? Can we do it? Boom, to gorgeous Bama. And I think that might be about it because we're caught up. We made it. All right. Favor time. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Yeah, we have a great show for you tonight. Lon Strickler starts a new era of strange days with his cryptid adventures. Hour 3, we got another great story from the swamp, courtesy of Swamp Dweller. Fedora John is back with the UFO report. Shirky Poo's got the news and the thought of the Dave. Tonight, we begin a brand new era of Spaced Out Radio with strange days. And of course, it is with heavy hearts, but we must always look forward. As our new monthly contributor, Lon Strickler, joins us from phantomsandmonsters.com. Of course, we do love having Lon here. He's an amazing and perfect fit to what we do and to take over from his best friend and ours, Butch Witkowski, whom we lost back on January 13th. Lon is no stranger to the cryptid world, and he's been chasing down monsters for almost 2 decades.